Thanks, Ms. Tan, for sharing on Ngee Ann Poly's Innovation and Entrepreneurship program. Now, let's welcome Ms. Dione Song, InnoPoly 2021's keynote speaker. Ms. Song is the CEO of Love Bonito and will be sharing insights on trends and opportunities in the retail industry, as well as the evolution of the brand. We will uncover how Love Bonito redefined the fashion and lifestyle landscape in Singapore and has successfully differentiated itself from its competitors. Ms. Song, please.
Okay, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Big thank you for tuning to this session. So I'll start very quickly just with a brief introduction of myself. So just a little bit about me, right, and just a little bit of background as well. So I've been with the Love Bonito team now for the last 4.5 years. Prior to this, first dipped my toes into the e-commerce and tech industry and startup world, starting my career first with Rocket Internet at Zalora. And then moving on to Sephora, actually quite interesting, right? So this was after the Luxola acquisition. So sort of when you look at a startup, you see the evolution, right, going through the M&A as well and viewing and really experiencing the next phase, right, of also that startup journey as it scales up. Some interesting facts outside Love Bonito, I love working with startups in general. And also I'm working with a couple of startups right now in directorship roles. Fun fact as well, right? And I think some will be a little surprised to see this. I have a terrible fear of public speaking. If you've done Clifton Strengths Finder, communication is my bottom 2 strength, right? So I think this is something that I've tried to work a lot at today. So I think if there's any feedback as well that you have from this session, feel free, let me know. So I'll start off today covering 3 key topics, right? 3 key areas. So first, giving you an overview of consumer retail trends, right, in the industry and what we see, right, from a Love Bonito lens. Part 2 of this, I'll give you a little bit more overview. I'm not sure if every one of you is familiar with Love Bonito. I think a lot of you are also a lot younger than me and may not actually shop the brand. So I'll give you a quick introduction of who is Love Bonito, right? Our journey and how do we see as well the vision, right, ambition for the next couple of years. Lastly, we'll wrap up with 6 key lessons, right? I think many of you are on your entrepreneurship journey, right? What are the 6 key reflections as well from my end, from a business standpoint, or if you're stepping into a founder or entrepreneur role, what do you need to think about as well, right, as you embark on this very important, very meaningful journey. So starting very quickly, walking you through the overall fashion retail landscape and how it has transformed and evolved over the last 20 years. So 20 years ago, back in the days, I think if you remember and recall Singapore, right, this was where there were a lot, right, of brick and mortar brands, brick and mortar stores, international brands that were first starting in the Singapore market especially, high street brands, and remember the likes of like Topshop, Topman, not sure if most of you have recalled these brands, but they existed, right, 20 years ago. And there were also, right, a lot of brands like H&M starting in market as well, right, where a lot of consumerism was driven by mass fashion, right? Can you get something at the most affordable price? But most of these channels are offline. 10 years in, right, so that was around 2010, we started seeing then the proliferation and the change, right? All of these players, essentially the same mass fashion, but everything was moving from an offline world to an online world. Right, this was the time that Zalora, for example, right, emerged in Southeast Asia. ASOS, for example, was expanding very aggressively in Europe, starting as well inroads into Southeast Asia. And we started seeing a lot more e-commerce brands emerge. Right? This was the time, of course, right, I think that all of us got so much more familiar with shopping online, that you're shopping the likes of your Taobao, right, Q10, all of that. Alibaba was exploding, right, and growing exponentially. What we've seen then as a brand as well, especially in the recent last couple of years, right? I think the last 3 to 5 years especially was that, hey, I think there is a huge change that consumers are also moving away slightly from mass platforms, right? And mass platforms and mass aggregators, and they're starting to look for brands that they really resonate with, right? Can they look for direct-to-consumer brands that really speak to them, right? Speak to their identity. And a lot of times when we look at consumer retail trends, the first shift starts typically in the US, right? That you start seeing a lot more movements, then coming into Asia, then into Southeast Asia, right? So in the US, for example, right, you have a couple of brands, right? They really represent this. For example, Radical Transparency. Brands like Everlane, right? Brands like Reformation, for example, that really represent that, right? You think fitness, wellness, right? Belonging in a community. Brands like Lulu, for example, right? That these are brands that we know today that are everywhere, right, in our markets. So for Love Bonito, we occupy the space of really female empowerment, right? If you think about as well the consumer retail fashion landscape, there hasn't been a brand that really speaks to the Asian female consumer, or let alone the Asian consumer, right, that really adapts the proportions, the clothing, the fit, the product, specifically, right, speaking to the Asian consumer, right? So that's where we essentially come in. So this is just sort of a little trip down memory lane as well, right, over the last 20 years as to how everything has transformed. Right? And what is interesting today is that most players today are now very omni-channel, right? Meaning that you're looking at consumer for the consumer, not because it's a platform offline versus online, right? You want to speak to someone and you're just finding the most relevant channel to actually address them. When we take a step back as well, right? Or perhaps actually zooming in also to specifically to Love Bonito and the sector that we cover, we speak essentially to the female customer. Right? And if we look at trends as well, it is a female economy, right? Sorry to all the guys in the room, but I think what is interesting is that we know from research, women contribute to 80% of all purchases in Southeast Asia. And beyond that, women also contribute to the majority of household purchase decisions, right? Think your electronics, right? All of that, right? That's really driven by a female consumer decision in the household. Specifically as well, when you think of the female economy, and this is where, as you embark on your journey, think about addressable opportunities, right, and TAM, right, total addressable market. It is a huge market, right? This is a $1 trillion market across the entire female sector, with women's wear taking, yes, around 300 billion, and the rest of it taking around 600 billion, right, of that market share, right? So is there enough space for many players? Yes, right? Is there enough space for Love Bonito as a brand example to thrive? Definitely. So for the next stage as well, we'll talk a little bit about LB and a quick introduction on who we are as a brand. This video probably does a better job than me and a lot more inspiring. And as a brand, what are we trying to portray over here, right? I think as you watch the video as well, it's inspiring. It's female-centric very specifically, right? You see diversity, right, with many different types of women as well, right? Wearing the same outfit, but wearing it in their own personality, right, in their own way as well. Women coming in different body shapes, right, and sizes as well. And essentially, this is essentially the mission, right, of Love Bonito. Can we be the brand that really speaks to and caters to the Asian female consumer? Can we empower the everyday Asian woman and inspire self-confidence, be it through our product, through our community, through our content, through our services? And what are our ambitions for the future as well, right? Our ambitions for the future is, can we evolve this, right? And can we take it beyond a typical fashion brand? If you think about fashion brands, think H&M, Forever 21, all of these brands that you're very familiar with, they're usually selling fashion apparel, right? So we ask ourselves, hey, given that we really understand the female segment, can we cater to more beyond just clothing, right? Can we think about other categories that are very thoughtful to our existence, right? Maybe, for example, beauty, right? Maybe wellness, right? Can we also provide services? Example today, mental wellness is a huge thing. It's an important thing. Can we provide good conversation topics, right? Community support as well to our female community in the most thoughtful manner, right? So that's really the ambition of Love Bonito. So very quickly, when we think about our business model, 4 key things, right, that really allows us to actually just succeed probably in today. I wouldn't call this differentiating factors or advantage plays, right? These are probably baseline, right, in today's retail, consumer retail sector. Number 1, versus a lot of more traditional brands that probably operate with wholesale, distributorship, and these are things that you'll think about too on your journey, different business models. We've decided to operate from a direct-to-consumer play. Right? This means that we own the direct channels of our customers, we're managing the marketing communications, and very importantly, in today's future age, we own the customer data. Right? So this means we understand them, we collect the data, and we own it, meaning that we can segment and target each and every customer that we actually have in our database. Number 2, we've decided to start our journey digital first. Reason for this, again, is to allow us to have the data point, right? So when you think about your journeys as well of consumer brands or F&B, a lot of times you're starting your journey maybe offline, right? Is the brand then, or if you were the brand, are you collecting data at that point? Probably not, right? Unless maybe you're scanning a QR code and you're signing in somewhere, which means you're actually a black box, right, to the brand. So for us, it's been a very intentional effort that, yes, we want to start digital first, But number two, it also gives us the flexibility, meaning that when we expand into new markets, we start digital first, purely online. Again, it's not too expensive to have a site, even on Shopify, right? Even on Squarespace and so on. Really try to understand the market first, gain traction, and then only then, when we realize that yes, we have good traction, we double down, right? We start investing in pop-up stores, we start expanding offline. Which brings me to my third point, right? When it comes to business model, we've decided to operate truly omni-channel. I think a lot of people also have questions in today's day and age, right? Is there a need for even offline? So end of the day, it depends what product, what category you're really owning, right? For fashion, we feel, yes, right, there is a need because consumers still want to try on a product, right? They want to try a dress. It's not just about the exact fit that you're seeing on the website, right? Beyond that, it's also about the fabric. Right? I think a lot of people on the call will probably understand that, right? Different fabric hugs you differently, so you actually do want to try it sometimes. And lastly as well, which is intentional choice for us, we've decided to play in this way, in this realm with vertical integration. This means that to adapt to customers extremely quickly, we are owning the full supply chain, right? So everything from design, everything from the actual sourcing, right? Everything from merchandising, right, and so on, technology, data science, downstream as well to customer experience and service. We want to own the full supply chain. Why? Because for us, as a direct-to-consumer brand, giving the best experience to our customers is extremely important, right? And we need to be agile, and we need to be very nimble, right? So these are just business model decisions you'll probably ask yourself. But what makes us truly unique, right, as a brand? And I really want to talk about this because it's extremely key, right? Whenever you're starting anything, what is your UVP, right? Unique value proposition. And for Love Bonito, 4 key things, right? First, really being extremely Asian, extremely female-centric. The fashion and retail space is an extremely crowded space, right? So in order to cut through the noise and really differentiate yourselves and own an important, significant market share, you need to have something that's extremely unique, right, to offer to your community, right? So that's one for us. Number 2, we're extremely community-centric, meaning that this is very important to us. We try to leverage the community, meaning that we're asking for feedback, we're responding to emails extremely quickly, we're also involving them, right? And this could be something interesting, right? Always involve your community when you're creating a beta product, meaning that you're involving them in a prototyping because they are your first adopters and you want to know exactly how they're going to be thinking about it. And very importantly, actually, they will be your ambassadors because they will give word of mouth, they will give virality, right? The moment you launch, whoa, right? They're going to be like, hey, I really love this brand, I really love this product. I've tried it before, I'm going to share it with 10 of my friends. Next as well, we know that our proposition is value, right? Meaning that some people ask, hey, I think, why do you price your products at this price? Is it too cheap, right? Do you want to price higher? We made a very intentional effort to really occupy the value space with the belief that we want to democratize fashion. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're fresh out of school, if you're working in a corporate world, right, for the last 5 to 10 years and a high flyer perhaps, if you're in your 40s as well, in different markets, developed to developing markets, we want you to be able to afford, right, a good piece of Love Bonito dress. So it doesn't matter, right, which income segment you're from, you should be able to afford a good piece of quality clothing. And finally, we believe in thoughtful personalization, right? And this could be in a technology way, in a non-technology way, be it through customer feedback, surveys, right, all of that, but also through data science, right? So that's our last UVP. Very quickly as well, into our global footprint, right? So who we are, we have coverage across 10, we ship to 20 markets, right, globally, but 10 key markets. And we think about expansion in 3 prongs, right? So the first region for us, really home market where we started, Singapore, Southeast Asia, where we have stores as well, and local teams in Malaysia, in Indonesia as well. Beyond that then, second key region for us, essentially East Asia, right? So we started seeing good organic traction, of course, from the Asian community, right? Markets like Hong Kong, Taiwan, now recently Japan as well. So we're doubling down, right? We only have online presence. We operate it currently actually from Singapore, but soon we'll be investing in local teams as well in market. And the last region for us was, hey, I think the dream and ambition just got bigger, right? From first looking at Asia to realizing, hey, there is a huge Asian diaspora, even in other markets, right? In other markets especially, right? So think markets like the US, Australia, right? Potentially markets like Canada. So I think for this part of this slide, I think key takeaway that I really wanted to highlight to all as well, and these are our fastest growing markets, right? The US, for example, and Hong Kong. Don't just think about expansion from a regional perspective, right? For Southeast Asia for us, right? Think about it from an audience perspective. Identify who you're speaking to, right? And then identify similar audiences across the globe, because you might find better similarities, right? And as soon as I think you're starting to embark on your journey, you realize too that the Southeast Asia landscape is extremely fragmented and is extremely differentiated and very diverse, right? So we're not all same. There's actually quite a bit of differences, right? So always think about that. Yeah, and then on to the last section, right? So to wrap it up very, very quickly and just to summarize, at least from the learnings that we've had, the learnings that I've had as well with Love Bonito, 6 key takeaways, right, that I thought would be really valuable. So the first one, always be clear about this, right? Identify your opportunity and identify who your audience is. You're going to hit a time that everyone's like, hey, can you cater to this audience, that segment? No, right? Be true about who you're targeting. Be extremely crystal clear about that because that's your core community. By trying to appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to nobody, right? Which means you have no unique value proposition. So that's first lesson, right? Which brings to number 2, right? Really spend time developing your UVP as an entrepreneur, right? As you think about your product, as you think about your company, this is your differentiating factor, right? And this will enable you to be defensible versus the competition. 3, right? Again, as you start your product as well, always listen to your community. And it could be a B2B community, it could be a B2C community, it doesn't matter, right? Always listen to your community, always listen to your customers, right? Get their feedback, learn from them, iterate along the way, because that's extremely important, right? At the end of the day, we don't know all the answers, and it's perfectly fine, right? You're always going to be launching an MVP, right? A minimum viable product. You're going to test and learn. You're going to do a prototyping. You're going to get feedback. You're going to get inputs, and then you iterate along the way. And then you realize, hey, maybe the product wasn't even what I envisioned before, but it's way better now because I understand the customer so much better, and they're giving me these inputs. 4th as well, no woman, no man is an island, right? I think as you start on your journey and you start building up your teams, right? Think about that, right? It starts with people first. Every company is a sum of its parts. Every company is a sum of its people. You can't do this journey alone, right? So really identify, right? If you're looking for a co-founder, identify, right, the right mix of personalities that are complementary as well. Do deep reflections about yourself, right? What are your strengths? Also, what are your weaknesses? Hence, you want to form a team that can complement, right, as well, your weaknesses and areas that maybe you don't know as well, right? And maybe you don't want to do as well, right? So be very, very clear about that. And then as you build your team, invest, right, in your team, in your culture, because that's your DNA, right? That's essentially your foundation. And the team is more important than anything else, right? Because this allows you to pivot in tough times as well, if you have a good team. Oh, yes, sorry, that's true in this photo. We just did a photo shoot. This is our team, our leadership team at LB, right? So it's a pretty, now this is the full leadership team. It's quite a big team, quite diverse as well. But today we have 250 people across the region. And then 5th, right? Have grit as you continue, embark, and go through that journey, right? You need to have grit. There is a Finnish word that goes sisu, right, which means intense grit. Have that because it's going to be tough, right? And always keep that in mind. And very Singaporean word, be thick-skinned, yeah? People are going to say, oh my God, your idea sucks, right? Or, hey, this is not great, right? Or, hey, I'm going to give you a lot of constructive feedback. It's fine. Your skin has to be thick. You need to pull through, right, all this period as you embark on this journey, and it's perfectly fine. Build that resilience. And then 5th as well, learn, fail, right, and stay optimistic. Oh, sorry, I had a numbering issue. Number 6, last lesson. You're going to fail, but think about it as well. Every failure is not exactly a failure, right? Every failure and mistake is a learning opportunity. At the end of the day, it boils down to how you're actually adopting and addressing, right, that exact failure, right? If you're failing at something and then you realize, hey, these were the 3 things when I do my retrospective, these were the 3 lessons that I learned. I will never repeat them again. That's great, right? That's actually a success. That becomes a learning opportunity, right? So always think about it this way, and always reposition your mind as well, right? That, hey, failure equals learning, right? And equals learning opportunity, and it's an iterative approach, and it's fine. And then this allows you then, right, to stay optimistic as you're going on the journey. Stay optimistic. Stay hopeful as well. Have faith, extremely, extremely important as you're going through all the tough times, the ups and the downs. And finally, of course, right, with also what Alvin shared, with COVID, right, pandemic, things are changing, right? Be very nimble, right? So this allows you to always stay nimble, stay on top of your game, right? Adjust along the way, and be extremely flexible. Yes, so I think that is the end of my sharing. Thank you so much, everyone.